Blake. Son, Blake, I'm at a meeting. Can you please keep it down? Are we ready to get started? Sorry.
Yes, I think we have a quorum.
Okay, great. Okay, it's 1:32. We'll call this meeting to order. I'd first just like to say that it's been an incredibly trying 2 weeks, so I appreciate everyone for being here. And in the effort of progress, commissioners and the staff had agreed to have a meeting today in order to keep things moving forward and not stall progress. So we'll start the meeting out first with a roll call. Commissioner Alexander?
Present.
Commissioner Brown? Commissioner Brown, we still can't hear you. I see you, you're here, present. Commissioner Flick, present. Commissioner Lunn?
Present.
Commissioner Mobley? Commissioner Mobley? Okay. Commissioner Stieg?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Stewart is absent today. Commissioner Wiedberg?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Wittry?
Present.
Great. Now we will read, we'll go forward with the approval of the minutes from the August 24th meeting. Can I have a motion for approval? Or are there any questions?
I'll move approval. Commissioner Stieg.
Thank you, Commissioner Stieg. Is there a second?
Wittry will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Wittry. Call for approval of the August 24th meeting minutes. Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown? I think she's still here. See if we can work out that sound issue. Commissioner Flick, yes. Commissioner Lunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley, did you join? No. Commissioner Stieg?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiedberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Wittry?
Yes.
Great, motion passes. Now we'll have a reading of the hearing rules. The order of business. The order of business at the hearing shall be as follows: a call to order and roll call with recording of members present, approval of minutes, reading of the hearing rules, presentation of dockets, which is a staff presentation, followed by an applicant presentation, followed by questions from members. Then there'll be a 30-minute recess. Then the consideration of dockets given public comment, rebuttal by the applicant, questions from members, voting, followed by adjournment. The order of business for each docket shall be as follows: presentation by the City Planning Commission staff, presentation by the applicant or their representative, The applicant or applicant may appear on their behalf or be represented by a duly authorized agent. Only one representative may speak on behalf of a request and must pre-register with the staff of the City Planning Commission. Other representatives or speakers may sign up to provide comments during the public comment portion of the meeting. The applicant shall be allowed a maximum of 2 minutes. Questions from members. The members have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff or applicant. Recess. The commission shall take a 30-minute recess to allow members of the public to comment. Public comment rules. Only written public comment will be allowed. Live public comment will not be allowed. No members of the public may submit more than one written comment per agenda item. Time allowed for the public comment. The public comment form will be made available at the start of the meeting and will close at the end of the 30-minute recess.
Overgrown, dumped on lots has to come to an end in
For-
all these. No one deserves to live.
Can we mute our phones, please? The public comments must be submitted electronically on the form provided by the City Planning Commission. Any comment missing this information will not be read aloud. Each submission must contain the commenter's first and last name, the commenter's address, whether the commenter is being paid in connection with his or her comments, and the agenda item. Reading of public comments, a moderator will read into the record all comments pertaining to that item that have been submitted in accordance with these rules. Comments will be read aloud in a normal speaking voice. The moderator will discontinue reading a comment once it exceeds 2 minutes. Rebuttal by the applicant. Following the public comment period, if there is opposition, the authorized representative of the applicant is allowed a rebuttal not to exceed 2 minutes. Questions from members. Following the public comment and rebuttal, the members have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff or applicant. Voting. Making a motion. The member shall make a motion, shall clearly state their name when making a motion. For example, I, Commissioner Flick, move to approve, deny the request. Seconding the motion. A member seconding the motion shall clearly state their name when seconding the motion. For example, I, Commissioner Flick, second the motion made by Commissioner Flick. Statement by the chair. The chair will restate the motion, confirming who made and seconded the motion. Voting. The chair will request a verbal vote from each member by roll call. Each member will validate a yay to vote in support of the motion or a nay to vote in opposition. Now for the presentation of dockets. The first docket item being zoning docket 6321.
Zoning docket 6321 is a request for a zoning change from an HUMU historic neighborhood mixed-use district to an MU1 medium intensity mixed-use district and a conditional use to permit a bar and an outdoor amusement facility in an MU1 medium intensity mixed-use district. Collectively, the subject properties comprise part of the Broad Theater's former parking lot that was converted to a temporary outdoor entertainment venue in 2020 in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The rezoning petition is intended to accommodate the applicant's desire to establish an outdoor amusement venue, a use that is not permitted in the HUMU district. However, even in the requested MU1 zone, bars and outdoor amusement facilities are permitted as conditional use only. This request was deferred from the August 24th CPC meeting because part of the applicant's original proposal was for a permanent outdoor live performance venue known as the Broadside. That proposed use is conceptually a melding of two wholly different uses, namely an outdoor amusement facility and a live performance venue. And those two uses, neither of them fits, the concept does not fit neatly into either use's definition. In fact, in some instances, the two uses are mutually exclusive. Activities or conditions that comply with one use are prohibited by the other. Per the definition of the CZO definition at Article 26, live performance venues are indoor facilities. Thus, an outdoor live performance venue does not correspond to any use that currently exists in the CZO. Therefore, that component of the applicant's original request could not be addressed at all at the August 24th meeting, and for that reason, the staff recommended deferral to afford the applicant an opportunity to consider other options, including requesting a CZO text amendment to define and establish outdoor live performance venues and similar uses. Since then, a request for that text amendment has been submitted to CPC staff and will be addressed at a later date. In the meantime, the petition at hand will pertain to the rezoning request and the conditional use request for an outdoor amusement facility and bar. If granted, the proposed zoning change will result in a spot zone. However, the MU1 designation is the most appropriate zoning for the site because of its fundamental similarity to the site's existing HUMU zoning. Both zoning classifications are intended to accommodate a variety of uses adjacent to residential uses, but only the MU1 designation would permit an outdoor amusement facility, and it is the most restrictive zoning classification for an outdoor amusement facility. Furthermore, the site's location at the node of a major arterial, North Broad Street, and Lafitte Greenway supports the higher intensity MU1 zoning classification. If the conditional use request is approved, the applicant will be afforded the opportunity to convert the site's interim pandemic-related use as an outdoor amusement facility to a permanent venue for that use in conjunction with a bar for the facility patrons' use. Both requests are consistent with the master plan, and therefore the staff recommends approval of the zoning change and also approval of the conditional use subject to 9 provisos.
Thank you, Robin. Is there anyone on behalf of the applicant available or the applicant?
Yes, Brian Knighton, 636 North Broad. I'm here.
Thank you, Brian. Do you have any comments?
No, I just want to say thank you all for meeting today under the circumstances, and thank you to Ms. Jones and Mr. Kroll for the work that they've done with this. They've been extraordinary with the conversations back and forth, and just publicly want to say thank you to them. But this is exactly what we need, and it puts us on the right footing and helps us move forward.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Knighton. Are there any comments or questions from commissioners for the applicant or for staff?
I have a question. This is Commissioner Witcher. On the report, I saw that it had 10 provisos, but I know Ms. Jones had said 9. I just wanted to be clear for the record how many provisos there are.
Yeah, it's 10 provisos. An earlier draft had 9, but at this point it's 10.
Thank you,
Mr. Knighton, are you aware of the 10 provisos?
I am not actually. I see it here now at the bottom of this email. I am not aware of them. Is now the time to go over those provisos, or is that later?
Robin, I don't know if you want to review what those are.
Sure, I'll be happy to, if you just want me to just read them off. I'll be reading them right out of my report. If you give me a second to pull that up. One moment, please.
Let's see. That is my fault. I missed the report at the bottom of your email, Ms. Jones. I have it in front of me.
May you could take the time during the recess to review them and come back before the vote.
Okay.
To ask Mr. Knighton.
Would like to do that? Does that sound good?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, great. Well, you can review those, and we'll circle back to you after the comments.
Yeah, Madam
my
Chairperson,
apologies.
I'll be happy to ask that question when we come back from recess.
Great, appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the zoning docket 6421.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The City Council motion for zoning docket 6421 requests the consideration of the City Planning Commission's billboard study, recommended option number 2. This option recommends creation of a trade system that gives credit for the removal of legal non-conforming billboards in exchange for the electronic conversion of other legal billboards that are not currently eligible for the electronic conversion, due to zoning regulations. The study recommended specific locations that should be eligible for electronic conversion based on certain criteria. A number of the locations recommended in the study to be eligible for conversion through a city administrative process may not be eligible based on state distance requirements if other billboards in the vicinity continue to exist. Billboard company with the largest inventory to trade has proposed some additional locations. The CPC staff has evaluated these additional locations using criteria developed in the billboard study, as well as during this staff report's analysis. The staff's analysis resulted in 3 additional locations recommended to be eligible for electronic conversion, which are shown on the map on your screen. This map would be included in the zoning regulations as the only locations that are eligible for electronic conversion through the trade system. Staff has developed language to create a new section for the comprehensive zoning ordinance in Article 25, nonconformities. The trade system will allow for the conversion from static to electronic billboards at certain appropriate locations, almost all targeting raised roadbeds not oriented towards any residential districts or uses, and with minimal to no impact on only commercial and industrial properties. The conversions would be handled administratively in the future by identifying the appropriate locations through this text amendment. The trade system establishes a value for the billboards to be removed that meets or exceeds the highest end of the best practices found or identified through the billboard study in terms of benefits to the citizens of New Orleans. So the staff recommends modified approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the commission, of staff in the report?
I'm sorry, I missed that. What were the total number that would be allowed to be converted to?
It is about 12.
And that would be it?
That would be
12.
it. The only way to change that number to a higher number would be for someone to come back again and request it through a text amendment to this ordinance. So that you would have to come through you again.
And is there a limit on the size of those?
It's limited to the size that exists.
Size that exists. And is there any way to, can this specifically help, or can it be designated that this be required in locations, for instance, Canal Street, the trade?
We don't recommend that, but that is certainly possible, although I would have to check who the owner of those billboards are. It may be that those owners might not have any eligible locations to trade with.
Okay, so the choice for the removal for the trades involves permission from the landlord?
The removal, I imagine, would not involve permission from the landlord. I think that would be something they would be allowed to do through their lease agreement. Presumably, the conversion to electronic would involve the permission of the landlord, because they would have to, as property owner, sign off on a permit application.
I guess I think my question is how is a value determined for which signs are most valuable to be removed?
So it is a system that's recommended in the report. If I could pull that up for a second. So it depends on the size of the billboard to be removed. The smallest billboards are only 6 feet by 12 feet or 72 square feet, and those are only given a value of 1 point, and you need 60 points to convert any one billboard to electronic. Then we have the next largest size is 12 feet by 25 feet or 300 square feet. And for these, you can get a value of either 10 points if it is in a residential district or a CBD or mixed use district, or 15 points if it is located in a local or national register historic district, or on a building of historic value. And then the third and those get 15 points. And then the third largest, or the largest billboards are 672 square feet or 14 by 48. And for removal in a residential CBD or mixed use district, you get 15 points. For one of billboard this size in a historic district or on a historic structure, you get 20 points. So even the largest billboard in a historic district, you would need to remove 3 of them to get 1 electronic conversion.
And the total, again, I'm sorry, Paul, I know I'm asking you to repeat, but this is pretty complex, trying to read through it all.
The total
The
requirement.
total
is
will be
60.
12, and it would be along either interstates. And this will require DOT or the state approval also?
Yes, it will. Some of the locations may not be actually eligible for the state conversion to electronic based on their distance from other billboards, but it is conceivable that other billboards could be removed, thereby making one of the locations eligible through its distance from other billboards.
Okay, and I read in the report that because of that, because the state, they may not meet the state's criteria, that the largest billboard company had proposed other locations. Were
Right.
those deemed acceptable?
Some were and some were not. In the end, we only recommended 3 out of, say, 10 that they proposed.
Okay,
And then 2 of those were targeting raised road beds, and 1 was unusually high, targeting Tulane Avenue, but at a very, very commercial location.
okay, all right, thank you.
And those billboards on Canal Street would be eligible to be removed. They may be valuable to the billboard company, but those are certainly eligible to be removed.
They're eligible, but they're not given greater weight by virtue of their location?
They're given greater weight by their location within a historic district and on historic buildings, but
Right.
not
But
any
their
greater than
billboard
any
company-
other historic district or historic building.
I mean, I'm thinking unlikely that they're going to be the ones that the billboard company is going to choose. But there's certainly some of the most, okay, the ones that most affect your visual aesthetics in our historic city.
Right.
So,
In fact, one of the options in the billboard study was to kind of go the other way and say at certain locations within the Canal Street corridor around the entertainment districts of the theaters that we would allow electronic conversion because it may help advertise the shows, for example, but that was not the option that was proposed by the city council motion.
Okay, all right, thank you for explaining those things. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. Are there any other questions? Okay. Move on to the next zoning docket or subdivision docket 7321.
Subdivision docket 7321 is a request to re-subdivide one existing lot, lot F1A, into 5 new lots, lots F1A1, F1A2, F1A3, F1A4, and F1A5. The existing lot is currently vacant and parallel to Dwyer Canal in New Orleans East. The existing lot contains one servitude in favor of sewage and water board that is 50 feet in width along Mark Drive. The proposed lots would not front on streets. They would be directly adjacent to one another without a public right-of-way or a public or private streets to separate the new lots of record. The applicant is proposing the subdivision of the lot in order to construct new residential structures. The subdivision requires consideration by the commission because it does not meet the requirements in the subdivision regulations that new lots front on a public or private street. These lots would adjoin each other so that one lot could only be accessed by crossing another. The applicant could create private streets that meet the street standards found in Article 5 of the subdivision regulations. Alternatively, the applicant could donate a portion of the land along Mark Drive to the city of New Orleans to create a new public street. However, the applicant wants to subsume these areas into the new lots of record, which, as proposed, do not meet several subdivision standards as they relate to street design, lot access, and safety. The areas of the property that would be considered a continuation of Mark Drive or Peralta Walk are private property owned by the applicant. The proposal is simply private property abutted against private property without a street separating the lots. Further, because there is no access from the Dwyer Canal side of the lots, the land that would constitute a continuation of Mark Drive and Peralta Walk needs to be accessible for emergency vehicles or fire trucks. The report states that the continuation of Mark Drive is too narrow to be accessible for emergency vehicles or fire trucks. However, the applicant recently provided an updated image shown on the PowerPoint of recent improvements on this portion of the property, indicating the continuation of Mark Drive would most likely accommodate emergency vehicles. What is shown on the PowerPoint is a servitude in favor of Sewage and Water Board and does not change staff's analysis. The staff would also like to clarify that the servitudes in favor of the 3 adjacent lots that are directly adjacent to the subject property along Peralta Walk are not along the asphalt portion of the lots, but the unimproved portion of land directly adjacent to the asphalt. These servitudes do not grant access to the subject property. For these reasons, the staff must recommend denial of subdivision docket 7321. However, staff would like to note the addition of documents received after deadline and requests the rules be suspended to allow the commission to review these documents that were not included in the staff report.
Thank you. Is there an applicant or an applicant's representative present?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Can you state your name and address?
My name is Amy Scandaliato, and our address is 8480 Morrison Road, New Orleans, 70127.
Okay, go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. So I just want to address the three things that staff is using for the denial. So the first thing is that it fronts on private property. Well, I will disagree with that because based on some information that I recently received, Palmisano Construction entered into a contract with the city of New Orleans on April 5th, 2021, signed by Mayor LaToya Cantrell. The contract agreement is called RR-153 Reed Boulevard West, Group C, bid proposal number 594. Included in this agreement gives permission to Palmisano Construction to replace the entire street on Mark Drive running from Hammond Street all the way through to the end of my lot. I also received the stamped approved engineering plans in reference to this construction, which was approved by the City of New Orleans Department of Public Works. This proves that the City of New Orleans has taken control of this portion of ground since Palmisano was given permission to cut my lot in half, therefore giving me no choice but to submit a re-subdivision as drawn. Number 2, the staff suggests that having a lot at a dead end is dangerous. I will also disagree with that because all along the Dwyer Canal, which basically runs from Downman Road all the way past Alce Forte, there are houses built at dead ends. Basically, all the streets between Shuffmantur Highway to Dwyer Road dead end at the canal. Based on the engineering plans stamped and approved by the City of New Orleans Department of Public Works, safety measures have been taken and the dead end will be secured with a type A dead end installation. Number 3, staff suggests that there are other viable options. Yes, they are. I made a very viable option in which we would not create lot F1A5 and we would extend both lots F1A3 and F1A4 further back, so making them deeper. And I felt like this was a very, very fair solution, but they didn't really acknowledge this suggestion. And finally, according to the approved re-subdivision survey dated February 8th, 1978, there is a proviso on that survey that states, upon further re-subdivision, streets must be extended and improved in accord with the requirements of the Department of Streets, which that proviso has now been met. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? The commission or questions from the commission for staff? I have a question for staff. Given the information regarding the city's work on Marquee Drive, what does that mean in terms of how the subdivision is currently shown? If anything.
As far as we know, so these are documents that I've requested for y'all to suspend the rules so I can send them to you. These were just received on Friday. But from what we know, working with the Department of Real Estate and Records, this is private property, and we haven't heard anything beyond that.
Yeah, this is Stephen. I'll try to expand upon that. Basically, the subdivision regulations say that lots need to front on streets. And there's two components to creating the street. Number one is creating a legal right of way, which is done through the subdivision process, which just identifies the boundaries of the street. And then there's the act of paving and improving the street, which is usually done by the developer as part of the subdivision process. So it not knowing a whole lot about what DPW has approved here, it sounds like the question of improving the street may have been resolved, but there's still the need to create a right of way within the which street would exist, so that the lots that are created here, certainly along Mark, have a public or private right of way on which they front.
Yeah.
And Bob, I don't know if you want to expand upon that at all.
No, I think Stephen, you've got it accurate. You can see the extension of the street that would go, as Ms. Scandaleato says, through her property, but there has been no dedication of that property that I'm aware of to make it either a public or private right of way.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone want to make a motion to receive the documents? That's how that's.
Commissioner Witchery will make a motion to suspend the rules to receive the documents that Ms. Burke has available.
Commissioner Brown will second.
Thank you. Commissioner Witchery has made a motion to suspend the rules to accept documents. Commissioner Brown is seconded. If there's no questions or comments, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick? Yes. Commissioner Lunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley? Commissioner Stieg? Commissioner Riedberg?
Yes.
And Commissioner Witchery?
Yes.
6 yeas, suspend the rules passes. I guess, council, what is the next step? Is that something we're going to be emailed now?
I just emailed you the documents.
Oh, great. Thank you. Should we move on to the next docket item or review these items now?
You can, if you want, you can just review them during the public comment break if you would like. So that way we can move on.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll go now to the subdivision docket 9221.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
It's a little low. Joseph, can you speak up?
Yes, just a sec. All right. Hopefully that's better. All right. So subdivision docket 9221 is a request by Bloods Block LLC to re-subdivide lot A1-A.
I'm sorry, Joseph, I can't understand. I can't understand.
All right, just a second.
I can't hear you clearly, Commissioner. You could just speak louder or slower into the microphone.
Yes, of course. So Subdivision Docket 9221 is a request by Buds Block LLC to re-subdivide Lot A-1-A, which faces O.C. Haley Boulevard, into lots A-1-A-2, facing OCH Boulevard, and A-1-A-2, facing St. Andrew, located in a HUMU Historic Urban Neighborhood Mixed-Use District. Both lots are presently vacant. The applicant has stated the purpose of the subdivision is to allow for residential mixed-use development inclusive of retail. The proposed subdivision requires commission action for the following two reasons. The subdivision would technically result in a reversal of lot frontage as per section 5.1.8 of the subdivision regulations, as lot A-1-A-1 facing St. Andrew Street would have a side property line adjoining the rear of lot A-1-A-2. Also, the subdivision would create two L-shaped lots, which is inconsistent with section 5.5.5, which requires side property lines to be perpendicular to front property lines, a requirement that L-shaped lots cannot meet. For these reasons, the subdivision docket is being reviewed under policy B. Per staff analysis, we have determined that while the proposal will technically result in a reversal of lot frontage, the proposed lot frontage pattern is consistent with the existing lot pattern on the block and throughout the neighborhood. Lot A-1-A-2 facing OCH Boulevard would align with neighboring three lots along OCH Boulevard. Lot A-1-A-1 along St. Andrew Street would align with the neighboring three lots facing St. Andrew. This exemplifies how the proposal is consistent with the overall lot pattern, meeting the allowance in section 5.1.8 for reversals of lot frontage that match the prevailing lot pattern. Lot A-1-A-2 is to have a dogleg extension of about 150 square feet, which is about 11% of the remainder of the lot. It is therefore considered to be a minor L shape, and the minor L-shaped lots are generally considered by staff to be acceptable. In contrast, lot A-1-A-1 will have a dogleg that is about 25% of the rest of the lot, so it is a major L shape. The staff is inclined to support the major L shape in this case because the Commission has made clear in its consideration of the draft subdivision regulations that it supports being more permissive in the creation of L-shaped lots in historic districts. Also, because the site is zoned HUMU mixed-use district, the area that is to have a dogleg shape is potentially entirely buildable area, regardless of whether it has a dogleg shape. So one of the presumed impacts of the L-shaped lots that they can create buildable area where it had not previously existed is not really the case here. For these reasons, the staff does recommend tentative approval of subdivision docket 9221 with final approval subject to 3 provisos. But in the time of preparing this oral presentation and corresponding with the applicant has confirmed their preference to defer the subdivision docket to the October 24th, 2021 CPC hearing.
Thank you. Is there an applicant or an applicant's representative available? No. Are there any questions of the commission for the staff? No. Okay, we'll move on to the next subdivision docket 10221.
Subdivision docket 10221 is a request to re-subdivide existing lot 1 and part of lot 2 into 2 new lots of record, lots 1A and 2A. The existing corner parcel fronts South Lopez Street and Fontainebleau Drive in the Broadmoor neighborhood of New Orleans. The parcel is currently improved with 1 single-family residence located at the rear of the property. The property has historically been improved in this configuration. While the residence fronts on South Lopez Street, The frontage of the lot itself is on Fontainebleau Drive. Consequently, there is a gap along Fontainebleau Drive that cannot be improved unless this portion of the lot is subdivided from the portion of the lot with the existing residence. The proposed subdivision would allow the underutilized land to be developed, and it would also rectify a building code issue where the current structure straddles two lots. This case must be heard by the City Planning Commission because the proposed subdivision creates a scenario where both new lots would be insufficient in lot depth for properties located in the HURD1 Historic Urban Two-Family Residential District. The HURD1 district requires a lot depth of 90 feet. Proposed Lot 1A would have a lot depth of 70 feet, and proposed Lot 2A would have a lot depth of 46.6 feet. The insufficient lot depths will require subsequent variance approval from the Board of Zoning Adjustments prior to final approval of the subdivision request. In addition, proposed Lot 2A constitutes a reversal of lot frontage, as a lot will now front on South Lopez Street rather than Fontainebleau Drive. Reversals of lot frontage are acceptable when the existing lot pattern within 500 feet on both sides of the proposed subdivision on each affected street contains development on which 50% or more lots have similar frontage. The request at hand meets the criteria for that exemption. Out of the 26 properties within 500 feet on both sides of the proposed subdivision, 18 have similar frontage. Therefore, this exception is met, and staff recommends tentative approval of Subdivision Docket 10221, subject to 4 provisos.
Thank you. Is there an applicant or an applicant's representative on the call?
Yes.
Hi, can you state your name and address, please?
Nicholas Hansel, 2113 South Lopez Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70125.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hansel. You have 2 minutes. If you have any comments.
I'll be brief since I know there's a lot. I'll be brief since I know there's a lot on the meeting agenda today. Thank you to Ms. Berg and others at the city for their thorough work preparing the staff report. As noted, a new residence in this location would not interrupt the neighborhood character. My wife and I plan to build a small home here and start a family if approved. Both lots as proposed would meet the minimum square footage required, and obviously the only variance is depth. We think overall the subdivision is an improvement from an urban streetscape and housing standpoint, and fills the gap on Fontainebleau that you see from a pedestrian viewpoint. As noted on pages 21 through 25 of the staff report, there are at least 9 other properties within 0.4 miles, including several on Fontainebleau Drive, that also would fail to meet the minimum depth requirement of 90 feet. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission for the applicant or staff? No, we'll move on to the next subdivision docket 10421. Thank you.
Subdivision docket 10421 is a request by Sadat Spencer for the re-subdivision of Lot A into lots A1, A2, and A3. The property is located on Square 325 in the 2nd Municipal District, bounded by Orleans Avenue, North Rocheblave Street, St. Peter Street, and North Durgeois Street. The municipal address is 2550 Orleans Avenue. So this request requires action by the CPC because the new proposed lots are deficient of the HURD2 district's 90-foot minimum lot depth and the 2,250 square feet minimum lot area requirements. The proposed lots would each have a depth of only 57 feet, a width of 30 feet, and an area of 1,709.97 square feet. The subdivision regulations do not allow for administrative approval of subdivisions creating lots that are not compliant with the CZO. Although the lots would face Orleans rather than North Durgeois, it is not a reversal of lot frontage that requires commission review. This is the case because the subdivision would create the new lots to aboot the existing lots to the side and the rear in a manner desired by section 5.1.8. Also, the subdivision would create 2 L-shaped lots, which is inconsistent with section 5.5.5, which requires side property lines to be perpendicular to front property lines, a requirement that L-shaped lots cannot meet. So this request is being reviewed under policy B. So even if we put the issue of the deficient lot size to the side, the proposed lot's configuration is more compliant with the subdivision regulations and the existing conditions. Case, because the new lots are growing the neighboring
Okay,
existing lots
Simon.
in a manner. This is an improvement over the existing condition, but the lot arrangement is inconsistent with the regulations. Any final approval will be subject to the review of the BZA, which will have to decide whether to grant the needed lot size variances. So the staff recommends approval, preliminary approval, with final approval subject to 4 provisos. And since there is not a report, I'll read the provisos into the record. Proviso number 1, the applicant shall comply with any requirements deemed necessary by Energy, Sewage and Water Board, the Department of Safety and Permits, the Department of Property Management, the Division of Real Estate and Records. Proviso number 2, the applicant shall comply with all other subdivision regulations, which includes the submittal of mortgage certificates, a consent letter from the mortgage company, and any tax certificate for the petition site. Proviso number 3, the applicant shall submit a reproducible copy and 2 prints of the re-subdivision survey. And proviso number 4, the applicant shall submit a variance request in regards to insufficient lot depth and area, subject to the review and approval of the Board of Zoning Adjustments.
Great, thank you. Is there an applicant or an applicant's representative on the call? No. If are there any questions from the commission for staff?
Yes, I'm present. This is Sadat Spencer.
Oh. And Mr. Spencer, can you state your name and address, please?
Sadat Spencer, 909 Poitras Suite, 1615, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70122. I mean 70112.
Do you have any comments or presentation?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that the frontage on Orleans. First, thank you all for hearing this out so close to the storm. But I just wanted to comment that the current parcel abuts 3 lots that's the identical same size, and I'm not sure if everybody is kind of familiar with Orleans Avenue, but Orleans Avenue and St. Peter and Toulouse, from pretty much from Galvez all the way to the Bayou, have lots that are similar depth and similar size. They all tend to be about 50 to 60, and most front on St. Peter and the other fronts on Orleans. So this the proposed re-subdivision is consistent with what already exists along those couple of miles in between North Durgeon and the Bayou. That's pretty much it. That was my comment. I lost my chain of thought when I was doing this. I'm sorry. I was spacing.
It's okay. And you're okay with the 4 provisos that were just stated into the record?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Okay, thank you.
I wasn't clear on the L-shaped lot though. What is the L-shaped lot? To be these lots are square, what do they mean like legally by L-shape?
Ms. McMillan, do you want to comment?
I think Valerie may have misspoken. So that comments are totally on point, and they're really he's explaining why we're recommending approval.
Okay.
Just the one note that there's the requirement that the Board of Zoning Adjustments grant waivers for the insufficient lot depth. The commission just doesn't have the authority to grant that waiver. So one proviso that's recommended does require this to also go to the grant the waiver of that lot depth. That would allow for the subdivision to be granted final approval.
And just the last thing. Originally, these lots were 3 separate lots, just like the rest of the blocks throughout Orleans, but for some reason, they wasn't like legally separated. But when you read the legal description, it does read three separate lots, square 325, lot A. The original designation was lot 170, 171, and 172. So it exists in its original legal state. It just haven't been ratified by the law, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Are there any questions from the commission for the applicant or for staff? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to zoning docket or subdivision docket 11021.
Subdivision docket 11021 is a request by Randall A. Moore to re-subdivide lots D, E, and a portion of E into lots D1 and E1. The property is located on Square 120 in the 4th Municipal District, bounded by Harmony Street, Laurel, Pleasant, and Constant Streets. The municipal addresses are 932 to 940 Harmony Street. So this request proposes to subdivide 2 rectangular lots into one lot, proposed lot D1, so that it becomes an L-shaped lot wrapping the rear of proposed lot E1. This request requires review by the CPC because the subdivision would create an L-shaped lot, which is inconsistent with section 5.5.5, which requires side property lines to be perpendicular to front property lines, a requirement that L-shaped lots cannot meet. So this request is being reviewed under policy B. Proposed lot D1 is to have a dogleg extension of about 560 square feet, which is about 10.4% of the remainder of the lot. Minor L-shaped lots are generally considered to be acceptable by staff. Therefore, the staff recommends tentative approval with final approval subject to 3 provisos. And again, since there's no report, I'll read the provisos into the record. Proviso number 1, the applicant shall comply with any requirements deemed necessary by Entergy, Sewage and Water Board, Department of Safety and Permits, the Department of Property Management, and the Division of Real Estate and Records. Proviso number 2, the applicant shall comply with all other subdivision regulations, which includes the submittal of mortgage certificates, a consent letter from the mortgage company, and tax certificate for the petition site. And proviso number 3, the applicant shall submit a reproducible copy and 2 prints of the final re-subdivision survey.
Thank you. Is there an applicant on the call or applicant's representative? No. Are there any comments or questions of staff from commissioners? Okay. That concludes our active business.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Could I make a point earlier when we were discussing zoning docket 6421, the billboards? Richard Cortizas is authorized by the city council to speak on behalf of that as applicant. I guess we moved along too quickly.
We did.
He didn't have a chance to pipe in.
Sorry. Is he on the call now?
Yeah.
I apologize. Go ahead.
Not at all. No. Thank you, Madam Chair and commissioners and City Planning Commission staff. I just wanted to make a few comments, if I may. First of all, I want to start off by thanking and commending the staff of the City Planning Commission, in particular Paul, for the work on this report. While we may not agree with every point in the report and recommendation, we have to acknowledge that this was actually a very well done report. It's actually very thoughtful and very thorough. It is a very good report. And you may all know that, this process started back in 2017. There was a study that was commissioned in 2018, it was completed in 2019. But prior to that, there was not a billboard study that had been done prior to, I guess, dating back to 1989 and 1992. And frankly, the billboard regulations are really operating off of a report dating back to 1992. So it's good that this has been literally more than a 4-year process going. So again, we don't agree with everything in the report, but we do have to acknowledge that it is a good report and a good recommendation and very thoughtfulness of the staff and the commission. So we really appreciate that. So I wanted to state that. Obviously, while we believe that in order to maximize the goal of reduction and incentivizing, frankly, reduction of non-conforming billboards, we think that the points granted for reduction should be greater than 1 point, specifically for the junior billboards. Secondly, while we agree that conversion should only be in regulated locations and appropriate locations as determined by the Planning Commission and the staff. We don't think that it should be in historic district or residential districts or in the French Quarter. We're completely in agreement with that. We would have liked to have seen greater area considered with more flexibility on locations for conversions, right? The goal here is really take down in return for conversion, but frankly, we would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a wider spread for purposes of allowing for conversion and limited conversions. Having said all that, I'm sorry.
Your time is up. If you want to just finish your statement. We're at time.
Yeah, my last comment is, having said all that, this is a good report, and we're in support of the staff's findings and support. So we really, again, thank you and commend you for the work done. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, I don't know if you want to read into, if we were going to read off the deferred docket items now or break first and then vote and defer all of them after the recess.
I think that is a Stephen question.
Stephen, it's a Stephen question.
Yeah,
Stephen?
I think we should probably just read them to kind of give anyone who may be on the line the opportunity to comment. The people whose items are being deferred were invited to the meeting to get the opportunity to comment. So just a statement that as a result of backlogs and of course the recent hurricane, the staff is recommending that you as a commission defer zoning docket 6921 through 7721 and subdivision docket 11221 to the September 28th meeting, and also defer zoning dockets 7821 through 8921, as well as the subdivision regulations update October 12th meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we'll be taking a motion for a 30-minute recess to collect comments and come back then for comments and voting. Can I get a motion for a recess?
Commissioner Brown will move to recess for 30 minutes and to reconvene at, let's see, 3:58? I mean, 2:58.
Is there a second?
Stieg seconds.
Thank you. There's a motion by Commissioner Brown for a 30-minute recess to reconvene at 2:58, seconded by Commissioner Stieg. I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick? Yes. Commissioner Lunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stieg?
Yes.
Commissioner Weidberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Wittry?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll reconvene at 2:58.
Okay, we'll take roll call. Let's have to set this portion of the meeting. Commissioner Alexander,
Present.
Commissioner Brown,
Commissioner Flick, present. Commissioner Lunn,
Present.
Commissioner Stieg,
Here.
Commissioner Weidberg, Commissioner Wittry, Commissioner Brown, I see you. We are waiting for at least one more commissioner to join for quorum. Commissioner Stieg, did you respond?
Yes.
Oh, we have 5.
Yeah, I'm here.
Excellent.
Let me put the video on. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We do have a quorum, so we can, we can begin.
Commissioner Wittry is here as well, if you already called roll.
Thank you, Commissioner Wittry.
Not in the car anymore.
No, I've safely made it to the office.
Were there, Paul, are you on the call? Are you available?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. We'll start with zoning docket 6321.
There are no public comments.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments on a motion? This is zoning docket 6321. It was for approval. Actually, Mr. Knighton was supposed to review the provisos, the 10 provisos that were shown. Council, do I need to do anything special to have that conversation? Sort of, this
You
is
can
where
you can ask him questions, and you can discuss the proviso if needed.
And Madam Chair, is that what Commissioner Weidberg was going to remind you about? I remember he was going to do something, but I don't remember what it was.
Yes, that's what it was.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Knight, do you have any questions regarding the 10 provisos that were provided in the report?
No, I don't.
Great, thank you. Are there any comments or a motion from the commission for zoning docket 6321? Again, this was just for approval subject to 10 provisos.
Commissioner Wittry, I'll make a motion to approve zoning docket 063-21 with 10 provisos as staff recommended.
I'll second.
Second.
Oh.
Thank you. Commissioner Wittry's motion to approve zoning docket 6321 subject to 10 provisos and seconded by Commissioner Brown. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick? Yes. Commissioner Lunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stieg?
Yes.
Commissioner Wittry?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Next zoning docket is 6421.
All right, we have 3 public comments. The first one is from Larry G. Willis, 6501 Colbert Street, New Orleans, representing Linco Incorporated, owner of 5 properties with billboard leases. Would like to provide or request information regarding this application. I would like to know why no landowners were ever involved in any discussion about the billboard study in 2018 and the present motion today. This motion has consequences for some landowners, and I think they should be notified. On page 4 of the staff report, it states that there were no major changes to the city's billboard policies included in the CZO's final adoption in 2015. This is a major incorrect statement because the CZO before this had the height limit at 50 feet above roadbed or highest part of the elevated roadway. By reducing the height limit to 25 feet, the City Planning Commission has put a ban on all new billboards. A 14-foot by 48-foot would only be 8 feet above grade, with a 25-foot height limit, meaning anyone would have the ability to jump on the walkway of the billboard. Also, I would like to know why no one from Safety and Permits goes with a representative from DODT annually to do inventory. I worked up at Safety and Permits for 22 years and had to do an inventory annually with DOTD because of a 1977 agreement between the state and the city. I think the state and the city regulations for billboards should be somewhat similar. Next comment is from David Halpern, 909 Poydras Street, representing Lamar Advertising in opposition. Lamar Advertising submits that the proposal to implement trade incentives allowing non-conforming billboards to digitize in exchange for their removal yields inequitable results among the various advertising companies. Accordingly, the motion ought to be denied. As this committee is undoubtedly aware, electronic billboards are quickly becoming the preferred method of outdoor advertising due to their ability to promote multiple images over a single geographical space. They are far more desirable than traditional billboards, and as a result, their introduction to the city requires careful regulatory consideration. The proposal gives far too much credit for the surrender of smaller, less economically viable billboards. The study recognizes that smaller posters will cease to exist over time, yet it seemingly fails to recognize the same fate with respect to larger, more traditional billboards, given the conversion ratio suggested. For example, the study gives 10 times the points and value for a 12 by 25. A 6 by 12 billboard is given 1 point, and a 12 by 25 poster is given 10 times as many points for surrender, despite being only twice or more as large. What this imbalanced point system essentially does is reward companies with the higher inventory of economically inferior billboards while punishing those without. It also potentially incentivizes businesses to acquire such inferior billboards in hopes that they will gain an economic advantage in the form of digital signs in the future. Lamar is opposed to the current proposal. If, however, the city intends to proceed with a trade incentive, then Lamar suggests it revise the conversion ratio and point system more consistent with Lamar's. The third and final comment is from John D. Jackson III, 201 Kent Avenue, Metairie, representing himself in opposition. When I heard about the billboard study again, it reminded me of a sequel to a movie that almost everyone hated. Remember, a billboard study was done in 2019. It found that on average, around 17.24 billboards per year since 1990 have been removed from the city of New Orleans. These are mostly junk billboard locations. So the marketplace removes billboard locations and at a good pace that are not wanted by advertisers. Speaking of junk billboard locations, only one company basically has a large number of junk billboard locations. This one company is called Outfront. Outfront is the only one that would benefit from the conversion ratio for new billboards, LED billboards. It seems that Outfront wants to bump stock LED locations in return for junk billboard locations and also bypass the NNP process. Bypassing the NNP process is not fair to the citizens of New Orleans. Also, giving one company this type of advantage for an LED conversion would hurt the city council's constituency who owns commercial property with a billboard on it or has an opportunity to establish one. The less billboard companies who can compete means that more landowners have a greater possibility of getting short paid. Also, the city of New Orleans owns several properties with billboards on them, and this means that the city of New Orleans itself could get its short paid. Why would the city of New Orleans hurt itself? Outfront can offer to remove junk inventory if they desire to make it easier for them to acquire a variance to establish a new billboard. That's the last comment. Commission members, I did want to also ask for your permission. I noticed a typo on page 35 in the credit for legal non-conforming billboards to remove table 25-2 in the very last cell for the 672 square foot billboards on the lots with contributing historic structures. That should read 20 points rather than 21 points. So if you could please include that in your motion if the motion is to approve.
Thank you. Following procedure will allow the representative for city council motion to have a few minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll be very brief because I know it's been a long day. with regards to the first comment, Mr. Willis's, I'm not sure what his comment is regarding the 2018 study because it was open and there were several various public meetings and that wasn't adopted until 2019. So I think there was at least 4 public meetings in which that studies were actually presented and there was public notice. So I really don't have a comment towards his comments. With regards to Mr. Halpern's comments, I'm not sure how to address that either because Mr. Halpern actually supported this exact same recommendation, frankly, 6 months ago. So I don't know where that's coming from. I guess it might be a different day. And Mr. John Jackson, with regards to incentivizing for reduction of billboards, I would just offer that, you know, we've been having this conversation for at least about 4.5 years, and there's been no movement until this actual study and this report has actually come out. So I think finally we're seeing some movement, although it's not probably what we like and what we think is best. It's frankly a good public policy balance. We certainly would like to see more. I'm sure Mr. Jackson would like to see a lot less, but I don't know how you get less than 1 point. Anyway, with that, I close. And again, I appreciate all y'all's time and attention and really commend the staff. Again, while we don't agree, in fairness, it really is a very thoughtful report. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you talk at all to the comment that it only is benefiting one specific company?
Yeah, I don't know where that's coming from. I guess because Upfront probably has a large inventory. I don't know what Lamar's inventory is, and I don't know what Pelican's inventory is. My guess is those comments are targeted to the fact that in New Orleans specifically, because outside of New Orleans, Lamar actually has the largest inventory, and Lamar's actually sued municipalities to actually do exactly what you guys are doing right now. We chose to actually work with the staff and the commission in the city of New Orleans. We just, in New Orleans, I would imagine that Outfront probably has a larger inventory, but those were assets that were acquired through an acquisition several years ago. And so my guess is that's what the target of that comment is.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission?
Quick question for Mr. Cortez.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I know you're speaking as representative for the city council, but do you represent a company?
I'm sorry, I don't represent. I'm not the representative of the city council. The city council authorized me to speak on this motion because we had requested it, but I do represent Outfront.
Outfront, okay, but they authorized you to speak on this motion. Okay,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
Are there any other questions, either of the applicant or staff, or a motion? And the motion is for a modified approval.
So this is Commissioner Stieg. I move for a modified approval in accordance with staff recommendations.
And can you add the fixing the typo as well?
And fixing the typo as well.
The motion from Commissioner Stieg for approval of zoning docket 6421 for modified approval with the addition of the typo. Is there a second?
It's Commissioner Alexander. I second the motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Alexander. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Commissioner Lund. So I'd like to say I'm going to vote in favor of the motion. I have serious concerns about the oversight, about safety and permits ability with their capacity to handle the whole process, which with all the points, all the monitoring, the annual reports that will be turned in by the companies themselves. I think there is validity to what Mr. Halpern is saying. I'm really concerned. I know, and I really appreciate the staff has worked so thoroughly to try to have this create more of the goals that we want to accomplish with walkable, aesthetically pleasing, historic residential neighborhoods and historic downtown neighborhoods. I really appreciate that. I would like to make the comment that hopefully City Council could address that we provide resources to safety and permits to be able to enforce this so that it's meaningful and is applied the way it's meant to be applied. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lund. Are there any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick? Yes. Commissioner Lunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stieg?
Yes.
Commissioner Weidberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Wittry?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Next docket item is subdivision docket 7321.
No public comments.
Thank you. Is there, we've all received the email. Is there any discussion or a motion? Or questions?
I guess this is Commissioner Wittry. This is a confusing application. I mean, it does seem like there's 3 points of confusion: the Palmisano agreement, the dead end street, and the proviso that she had mentioned, the applicant. But from reviewing the document, it still looks like the city owns that property, and that they're just going into an agreement with Palmisano to actually maintain. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I was going to say that we discussed this with the real estate administrator. It's our understanding that the city has no ownership of this property. So, you know, I'm personally not particularly familiar with the construction agreement that was submitted. But as far as we can tell, there is not a public right of way or city ownership that extends through the property.
Okay. I'm gonna go back and read it. I'm not certain I understand, so I'm gonna not comment any further on this.
So the city is providing the street. They're extending the street into an area that's not their property. Does the layout of the subdivision lot as shown work given the street work that was approved?
So what it would do is the street work would extend into parts of the lots, and I hope y'all can hear me. It's raining in the background, so I hope I'm not muffled. The street that apparently is to be built would extend over the front portions of the lots, so that as a practical matter, they would have street access. As a technical and legal matter, they would not have frontage on a right-of-way. Frontage on a right-of-way and kind of the permanent access that it provides is really a fundamental regulation in the subdivision regulations. It makes clear in multiple sections that every new lot is to have frontage on either a public or private right-of-way. So, you know, that's a long way of saying, yes, the street would be there on the lot, but it wouldn't comply with the regulations, which seek to have the street on a separate property than the lots themselves.
I see. Are there any other, I'm sorry, Ms. Caniela, this is closed to public comment. You may not speak right now. Are there any other comments or questions of the commission or a motion? Anyone? I guess I'll keep the discussion going. So if the city acknowledged the street, then they would have a right of way on the lots in question.
Yeah, I think what would have to happen is the ideal situation is a right of way gets created for the street to go into. That would require kind of a modification to the subdivision plan to define that right of way. And I think as part of that conversation, you know, we hadn't heard any comments from DPW about this. And so what the applicant has submitted is really the only material we've got. So again, we don't have a formal determination from DPW. What seems to be the most productive path forward would be for a right-of-way to be created that would either be a public or private right-of-way, but would be separate from the lots themselves. And then I guess the improvement work would occur within that right-of-way.
Thank you. But we don't create right-of-ways or approve right-of-ways. They would have to go through the proper departments.
So the right-of-way gets approved as part of the subdivision, but it needs to be part of what is proposed, and it's not currently part of the proposal.
I see. Thank you.
So could the applicant add that in the application, and then that could be deferred until the next meeting? And then we can get some information from the Department of Public Works.
Yeah, that's a good question. This is on deadline now. If the applicant were to consent to a deferral, we could, defer this for probably at least a month. And yeah, kind of get answers to some of the questions that are not resolved at this point.
Could we ask the applicant to address that?
Yes, Ms. Scaniello, are you amenable to deferring?
So the deferral will be to just revise the current re-subdivision to just add a right of way in there? Is that what?
Yeah, that's correct. And we would also talk with DPW about making sure that does in fact get improved through, whatever construction is currently ongoing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem doing the deferral and then just updating the re-subdivision to just put a public right of way in there. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Great. So
I'd just like to point out that with the lots not encompassing that public right of way, it removes 25 feet on either side of the lot. And so those lots, at least two of them, unless she decides to extend the other two beyond Pearl Walk, would need variances for lot depth.
Well, not if it's just a right of way. It wouldn't be a dedicated street. It would just be a right of way. That would be part of each lot.
Okay,
no,
so
it would be a right of way separate from the lots. So the lots would get shallower, and then that land would become a right of way.
Right.
And there is a process that it has to go through, I believe, with the city. And I don't know how long that takes. But we did have a conversation about that with real estate and records, and they have a whole process it has to go through if it were to become a public right of way.
Yeah, you told me it would take a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So then, no, I don't want to do that then. I mean,
okay, so there's a process that needs to happen that we can't say that it's going to be a right of way. There needs to be other departments involved. So this is something that sort of goes beyond our purview, I think, in terms of what we can do. So your options are, if I'm correct, to defer for a month to see what can be done given the right of way and the variances or whatever the revised subdivision lots could be, or we put up a different motion for approval or denial. So commissioners, based on that, is there a motion or any discussion?
This is Stephen again, but before you all vote, I do want to make one quick note. You can create a public right-of-way or a private right-of-way. Creating a private right-of-way doesn't take as long because it doesn't require the city council to formally dedicate the right-of-way. So a lot of the year and a half that was referenced has to do with the creation of a public right-of-way. A private right-of-way can still be created. It does, I don't want to say it happens overnight, but it doesn't take as long as creating a public right-of-way. So just that's something that could be discussed in a deferral period.
Thank you.
But you could still not build on that portion of the private right of way, is that correct?
You couldn't build a house, so it would have to be improved with some sort of street, right?
Rachel, what would the lot sizes be then if you had a private right of way that got approved?
Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the minimum size for the private or public right of way is 26 feet. And then, it states that it should be 50 feet in the subdivision regulations. But what you're seeing, what you saw, the picture of the part of the property that was improved that we're discussing is a sewage and water board servitude. So I don't, honestly, I'm not quite sure how that plays into being able to utilize that area to build. But I just wanted to make that note that it is a sewage and water board servitude. And the other issue is the Pearl Walk area. The 3 adjacent lots have a servitude in favor of those lots, but those servitudes don't grant access to her property.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or motion?
A question for Ms. Scandaliato. So given what we just discussed about the private right-of-way versus public, would you then be amenable to the month deferral?
To do a private right of way, yeah, well, does it take, if doing the private right of way though, is it going to require a variance?
It probably would require a variance. And, you know, what I can say is we can defer it and you can decide to not proceed with it. Like, you're not deferring it doesn't lock you into doing one thing or another. So I don't want you to feel like you're on the spot. But yeah, if you did a private right of way, I think the lots on one side of Mark would become slightly too shallow, and then a variance would have to be granted for that.
Then yeah, I'm really considering just leaving it the way I have it. I think it looks good the way I have it done.
Okay, is there any other discussion from the commissioners or a motion?
I'll make a motion to deferral just because I feel like there's a lot of loose ends that maybe need to be hammered out after this discussion. And that would be my motion to defer, if you would accept that as the applicant.
So just a deferral for y'all, just to kind of review everything again and see how I maybe, you know, the way I have it laid out, I think y'all would agree. It looks great. I mean, you just have to look at it and understand it. And, you know, I'm putting the servitudes in there. I mean, the street is there, you know, it all makes sense. It does all make sense. So I would be okay with that, just for to review what I already have submitted.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second Commissioner Wittry's motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Sorry,
real quick,
sorry?
What is the deferral date, Commissioner Wittry? I think from staff perspective, October 26th would be ideal. We may be able to make October 12th work, but as you know, we're kind of dealing with a pretty significant backlog here. And so, you know, October 26th would certainly be better.
You're on mute.
October 26th would be my deferral. Commissioner Steig, would you second that?
Yes.
Okay.
It'd be an opportunity for staff as well as the applicant to review to find the best path forward.
So there's a motion on the table for zoning docket 73, motion by Commissioner Witry for deferral until the October 26th meeting, seconded by Commissioner Stieg. Are there any comments or discussion? If not, Commissioner Alexander.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Flick, yes. Commissioner Lunn,
Yes, yes.
Commissioner Stieg,
Yes.
Commissioner Weidberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Witry.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Next docket is subdivision docket 9221. Paul, are there are no comments? Okay. Is there any discussion or a motion? This is for tentative approval. Actually, this is for deferral to October 26th.
I'll make a
Commissioner Lunn, I
motion.
move for-
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll move that we defer zoning docket 92. Shoot, I don't have it in front of me. This zoning docket, that we defer the zoning docket to October 26th public meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Commissioner Witry will second it, zoning docket 092-21.
Yes. Commissioner Lunn has motioned to defer zoning docket 9221 to the October 26th meeting, seconded by Commissioner Witry. If there's no discussion, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick? Yes. Commissioner Lunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stieg?
Yes.
Commissioner Weidberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Witry?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Motion passes. Subdivision docket 10221. This is set for tentative approval subject to 4 provisos. I don't think there are any comments. Paul?
No public comments.
No more. So is there a motion or discussion?
I'll make a
Commissioner Lunn, I move for
motion.
approval of the subdivision docket 10221, subject to 4 tentative approval, subject to 4 provisos as outlined in the staff report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Commissioner Witry will second.
Thank you. Commissioner Lunn made a motion to approve zoning docket 10221 for tentative approval, subject to 4 provisos, seconded by Commissioner Witry. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick? Yes. Commissioner Lunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Steve?
Yes.
Commissioner Weidberg?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Witry?
Yes.
Great. Motion passes. Next is subdivision docket 10221. No, I'm sorry, 10421.
No public comments.
Thank you. This is set for approval with 4 provisos.
Commissioner Witry will make a motion to approve subdivision docket 104-21, subject to 4 provisos.
Commissioner Witry, is there a second?
Commissioner Brown will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Is there any discussion? No. Commissioner Witry made a motion to approve subdivision docket 10421, subject to 4 provisos. Commissioner Brown seconded. If there are no comments, Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick? Yes. Commissioner Lunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stieg?
Yes.
Commissioner Weidberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Witry?
Yes.
Yes, motion passes. Last is subdivision docket 11021. I assume there are
No
no
public
comments.
comments.
Thank you. And this is set for tentative approval and 3 provisos. Is there a motion?
All right, Commissioner Lunn, I move for approval of subdivision docket 11021 for tentative approval subject to 3 provisos. Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Lund. Is there a second?
Commissioner Witry will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Witry. Commissioner Lund made a motion to approve tentative approval for subdivision docket 11021 subject to 3 provisos, with a second by Commissioner Witry. If there are no questions or comments, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick? Yes. Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Stieg?
Yes.
Commissioner Weidberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Witry?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. The next, and I think I can just list the several docket items for deferral to the, Stephen, can you help me?
Yeah, so we are recommending that you as a commission defer zoning docket 6921 through 7721 and subdivision docket 11221 to the September 28th meeting. And then as part of the same motion, defer zoning dockets 7821 through 8921 and the subdivision regulations update to the October 12th meeting.
Okay, that was a lot. Shall I repeat? We're looking for a motion to defer as stated by Mr. Kroll. Do I have a motion?
This is Stieg. I'll move exactly what Mr. Kroll just said.
Thank you.
Commissioner
Is there
Brown.
a second? Thank you,
Commissioner
Commissioner Brown. Thank you. Is Commissioner Stieg made a motion for deferral, seconded by Commissioner Brown. If there are no questions, I'll call the question. Commissioner Alexander?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick? Yes. Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Stieg?
Yes.
Commissioner Weidberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Witry?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. That's all we have for today. Right. So just looking for an adjournment.
Nice job driving, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Yes. Good job.
Bravo, bravo. This is
Okay,
a
good
motion
job.
to adjourn.
Second.
I'll second it, Commissioner.
Thank you. And all in favor, we just wave our hand. Great. Thanks, guys. Be safe.
Good to see everybody.
For the rain.
Everyone.
Yep.
Bye.